Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group,
welcome to Gridiron Central, the Week 7 edition of our preview show. With me, as always, is my tag team partner, Matt Davis from 95.7 The Ridge. We're going to try to give you all the lowdown on this week's games. And we're going to start off with a Region 7AA matchup. Of course, all of the teams from Region 7AA were off last week, but we'll start with this right now. Chattooga traveling to play at Armuchee. 69% of our UPick'em users believe that in the Battle of the Indians, the Chattooga Indians will come out on top. Matt, do you agree with that?
Well, before we get to that portion of the program, Jim, I want to say a very special happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you.
You're celebrating a pretty big one today. Would you care to share with our viewers today?
Yes, yes. I turned 40 years old today, and as I've told everybody who's wished me a happy 40th, that I definitely believe what Pitbull says in one of the songs he raps, where he says 40 is a new 30. So thinking like that, it's basically I'm 30 again. I'm 30 again, ready for it.
But of course, Jim has been awarded with this lovely Gridiron Central cake, which I think we're zooming in on right now with a Gridiron Central logo. No, we're not zooming in. He wants me to hold it up. Up. Is that good? Awesome. And, of course, it says, Happy Birthday, Jim. I did not know, however, at the time that I discovered it was your birthday today, that it was your 40th birthday, or else the icing would be black and there would probably be some obnoxious stuff.
You mean that icing isn't black?
No, it's actually kind of a dark brown.
Gotcha. I'm colorblind, so it looks black to me, so close enough. But, yes, it is my 40th birthday, but the show isn't about me. It's about high school football. So what do you think? 69% people think Chattooga's going to win. Does that surprise you at all?
It surprises me you didn't change the subject quicker. But, no, actually, it surprises me a little bit because I've seen Armuchee, and I've seen them 3 times, and yes, they're a young team. They're mistake-prone. They commit a lot of penalties. I've seen them turn over the ball quite a bit, and they've really had a rough go of it this season. On the other hand, so has Chattooga. I think these teams actually line up pretty evenly, and I'll give you a statistic that I think is kind of interesting. In terms of average, Chattooga is scoring 4 more points a game than Armuchee. Well, on the other side of the ball, on defense, Armuchee is giving up a couple of points less per game than Chattooga is. So when you look at that on paper, you really think these teams are fairly even. And I think that's kind of what you're going to see in this game, despite the fact that Armuchee is really young and is, mistake prone, like I mentioned earlier. I think at the end of the day, they're going to find a way to win this game. Because one of the things that I've noticed about Armuchee is no matter how much they get behind the 8 ball, they keep trying. And when you got a team that does that and they match up against a team that I think they match up against well and they keep going for it, eventually you got to figure something good is going to happen for them.
Certainly.
And so I think Armuchee's going to win this game, but this is one of those games where at the end of the night, it really won't surprise me if Chattooga ends up winning this game. Yeah,
it's definitely an interesting game for me to call on this one because, I was there 2 weeks ago when Armuchee lost to Model, and, in that game, Armuchee almost won the game, and some people probably think they probably should have won the game. Very, very solid game from Armuchee. Again, it's hard to tell on this one which one of these teams is better. In all honesty, the loser of this game is probably out of the chance of any of the playoffs simply because this is almost a must-win for both of these teams. That being said, they each had a week to prepare for this. It's at Armuchee. There is a history in this series, obviously, dating back the last few years where some very good games, including the game 3 or 4 years ago where Armuchee went in and knocked off a state-ranked Chattooga team on a last-minute field goal. And, of course, the next day, the Chattooga head coach at that time, John Starr, was fired by the school. Doesn't often happen in high school. Won't happen this year, obviously. I'm going to go with Armuchee as well. I think playing at home is going to be big, and I just think that Armuchee is probably about 1 point better in this game. Moving on to another game that didn't look that interesting until last week. Pickens is traveling to play Cedartown. 83% of our UPick'em users believe Cedartown's going to win, but Cedartown lost last week to River Ridge, Matt. Pickens is not a bad team. Could we be looking at 2 upsets in a row in a week? 2 upsets in a row in 2 weeks against Cedartown?
There's potential for it. This is not the Pickens team of last year. The Dragons, they've gotten off to a pretty good start. They upset Cass last weekend, which was a big surprise, I think, to a lot of people. And, let's face it, last year I don't think they won a game, did they?
If they did, it was only 1 or 2.
Yeah, they had a really bad season, but this year they're off to a good start. The thing about Cedartown, and we're kind of beating a dead horse here, Chubb. He had 244 yards last week, 38 carries, and 4 touchdowns. How often do you have a guy that picks up that much offense and your team loses?
Yeah.
I would say it probably doesn't happen terribly often. I mean, this guy carries the load for this team, and they are very one-dimensional. And, that is very troubling. And when you get into situations like this where you feel like it could be a close game, that obviously is going to work against you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm going to pick Cedartown in this game. I think that they're going to pick up just enough offense, and they're going to be motivated enough to get past this game. But I think it's going to be a battle. But I do pick Cedartown in this game.
Well, I mean, the key thing for me, I think there are two big things here. Number one, Matt mentioned Pickens upset Cass last week. And, yes, that was an upset because Cass has been really good this year. So Pickens obviously really up last week. It's hard to be up 2 weeks in a row. Cedartown lost the game last week against River Ridge. If Cedartown wants any chance of the playoffs or even a chance at a region title, this is now must-win territory. I've said it all season long. Cedartown fans can sing along with me. Defense has to improve. The offense has to find another dimension, at least another running back, at least something. Nick Chubb is a phenomenal player. Right now, projections-wise, would have him breaking the single-season rushing yardage record for Georgia in the 12th game of the season if he keeps on the pace he's on right now. Obviously difficult to do because he's rushing for a ridiculous amount of yardage. But other than Nick Chubb, Cedartown has to prove they're ready to take that next step and win a region title. This was the year all the Cedartown fans were really cheering for and aiming for. The loss to Ridgeland was tough. The loss to River Ridge was really tough. If they lose to Pickens, all of a sudden they may not even be able to make the playoffs. So Cedartown has to win this game. I think they will, but I think it might be a lot closer than most of the Bulldog fans want it to be. A game that's very difficult to call between two teams that have yet to win a game, both Region 7 AA opponents, both looking for not only their first victory, but a much-needed region win. Coosa travels to play Dade County, and crazily enough, half of our UPick'em users believe Dade County will win, which means the other half believe the Eagles from Coosa will win. Matt, it's on the road in Trenton. Can Coosa pull the win?
I'm not so sure, but I do know that both teams really need to win this game really badly. If they expect to have any dreams for making it to the playoffs, they've got to start winning some games. And neither one of them has been able to do it. But the thing that really is a glaring difference between these two teams for me is Dade County has an offense, and Coosa has not been able to score any points this year. As a matter of fact, Dade County's averaging about 20 points a game. Coosa is averaging about 6. They've really struggled getting the ball in the end zone. And so even though they come into the game with, both 0-5 records, I still think Dade County is the better team, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Now, on the other side of the ball, I think Coosa may be a little bit better, but not enough to counter the fact that Dade County has got a pretty strong offense. So I think Dade County is going to win this game, and they may even win it by a couple, maybe 3 touchdowns. That's the way I see it.
I've been saying all season long that Coosa, and yes, they are winless. They're 0-5. I think Dade County is as well. Dade and Coosa kind of got the raw end of the deal as far as the region schedule because these two teams had to play Pepperell and Calhoun for their first 2 region games, arguably the 2 best teams in the region, so they're both 0-2 in the region. Really, to get to the playoffs, you really need to have no more than 3 losses in region play. So both of these teams have the 2 losses. This is a must-win game. They both had an off week last week. For Chad Perry and Coosa, it's all about the second half of the season now. You have to get better. I think Coosa's going to get better. For Dade County, I think Dade County should be the number 3 or number 4 seed out of this region. That's my guess right now, just looking at the way everything's breaking down. That being said, I think Dade County is going to win. Number 1, it's in Trenton, a very difficult place to play for traveling teams. Coosa,
difficult place to get to.
Well, no kidding. I actually interned at the Dade County Sentinel in Trenton, Georgia for a summer back in a long time ago, obviously, since I'm 40 now. It's kind of stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Long drive to get there. It's going to be a long road back for the Eagles, unfortunately. I believe Coosa's going to lose this game. It would not surprise me if it's a close game, however.
Kevin in there, man, every time you mention 40, he starts chuckling.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, he's young. But he smokes a lot, so I'll probably outlive him. Anyway, moving on. Christian Heritage at Darlington. 97% of our UPick'em users believe the Tigers will win this game. Of course, local fans will remember Christian Heritage was Model's first win of this season. I'm going to agree. Darlington wins this game, possibly running clock in the second half. Matt, what do you think?
Well, one of the things that really stands out to me for Darlington's sake in this game is I was at their practice a couple of weeks ago after they beat Tryon, and those kids were fired up and very excited to get back out onto the football field. And they get their chance here to play against Christian Heritage. Christian Heritage is just now in the GHSA. They've had some success. They're 4-2, but they have not even close have the schedule that Darlington has had. And I know we talk about that every week, but that's because it's relevant every week. Darlington really proved against their game against Tryon that the strength of schedule has really helped them out and has helped them improve to get to the point that they are right now. So, you know, one of the things they've got to avoid coming into this game is being overconfident. However, with the coaching staff that they have and the leadership they have at quarterback with Brad Butler and his leadership that he provides for this team, I just don't see that happening. I think Darlington's going to come up big offensively in this game, and they're going to shut down Christian Heritage and further their welcome to the GHSA.
Yeah, like I said, I think Darlington wins this. I agree with you pick 'em users. Darlington's a very good team. I'm not so sure they're going to be challenged until the playoffs. Moving on, one more game before our commercial break. Model, the Blue Devils, 2 region wins. Wait. 2 region wins already. Then I guess that's a senior moment for me now that I'm 40. Model, 94% of our You Pick 'em users believe the Blue Devils will win as they travel to Murray County. Matt, any reason the Blue Devils will lose?
Let's just put it this way. Murray County is averaging 5 points a game while giving up an average of 49 points. If you pick Model to lose in this game, I would have to just go ahead and tell you, you have rocks in your head. I just do not think this is going to happen. Yeah, Model makes mistakes. They're a young team. They commit a lot of penalties. They put the ball on the turf a lot, and they almost burnt themselves against Armurchie a couple of weeks ago doing those sorts of things. But in this game, they can probably do that a few times and not run the risk of even letting Murray County anywhere close to the game. But I will say this. I don't want to knock on Murray County too much because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of character for those kids to get out there every week and play in a schedule where every team sees you on the schedule and says, well, at least we got one sure shot win for the year. That has got to be difficult for these kids to do. I mean, let's face it, these are young kids. And so I just want to tip my cap to them for keeping going. And even though it's got its difficult moments, well, pretty much all season long, it's going to be a character building situation. I think it says a lot about these kids that they get out there and they go after it every week. And they never give up. I'll give them that. But it doesn't really matter. Model should win this game by 40 points.
Gotcha. I don't know if Model's going to win by 40 points because the one thing I see about Model is they tend to play down a little bit to the level of the competition along the way. One thing I will say about Model, though, is, and Coach Gordon Powers mentioned this after the Armurchie win, especially when he was talking to his team as well, they're 2-0 in the region. If they beat Murray County, they're 3-0 in the region, and for all practical purposes, mathematically, unless I'm badly mistaken, 4 region wins get you into the playoffs. If Model wins Friday night, they're 1 win away from the playoffs, and they haven't been in the playoffs in a while. This is a very interesting Model team. This is a team that should win this game, move to 3 wins, and then you'll see down the road, you know, they'll have 3 or 4 chances to get that final win to get in the playoffs. And you know what? Quite honestly, I think they probably will make the playoffs. I think they definitely beat Murray County. One thing to say about Model, though, don't go in with your heads too big because Murray County is going to play hard. I don't know if they have the talent or the horses to do it, but if you turn the ball over 3 or 4 times against them, you may end up losing, and this is a game you don't want to lose because if you lose this game, you got 2 more region wins to go, you may not get there. So who knows? I believe Model wins. Matt believes Model wins. We're going to go to commercial right now. When we come back, we have 2 or 3 other real key games to talk about for Week 7.
Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future.
Welcome back to the show. We always like to thank our sponsors, Georgia Northwestern Technical College and Riverside Automotive Group, for supporting our show now in its 6th season. Of course, this is our 3rd season with Matt and I here together, and of course, I'm always remiss if I don't mention that this is an Emmy-nominated high school football show, the only high school football show to be nominated for an Emmy in the state of Georgia over the last 5 years. Always got to throw the plugs in. Moving on, Ridgeland at Southeast Whitfield, 100%, if my math is correct, that's all of our UPick'em users, believe that the Panthers will win this game. Matt, can Southeast Whitfield pull the upset?
No. Quite simply, no. This is probably going to be the easiest game for Ridgeland so far, because the only game that you've seen Ridgeland lose this year was a high-scoring affair against Calhoun in which it was neck and neck, and basically they lost it in the last couple of minutes of the game. And every other team that Ridgeland's played this year, whether their record reflects it or not, is a very competitive team. Yeah. This team is not very competitive, just to be honest with you. Even if Ridgeland comes out a little flat in this game, I think they have enough talent on both sides of the ball and enough depth that they'll right the ship and, should pull away in this game by a pretty decent margin. I think Ridgeland wins this one hands down.
Gotcha. After the beatdown they handed Dalton last week, Ridgeland's in the driver's seat. They should, in all honesty, I'm going to go ahead and say it, they should be the region champions because they've already beat down Cedartown on the other side of the bracket. I don't think there's anybody on that side of the region that can beat them in the region play-in game. Dalton was their biggest competition other than Northwest Whitfield. Granted, they still have Northwest Whitfield to go, but I still don't think Northwest Whitfield's going to beat them either. And this week against Southeast, no. The only thing happens if Ridgeland turns the ball over 8 times and it comes down and is down in this game after the big win over Dalton, maybe Southeast can pull something. Not going to happen. Mark Mariakis will not let his bunch of Panthers get down. Ridgeland rolls in this one. Rockmart at Haralson County. Jackets got their first region win last week. However, 75% of our UPick'em users believe Haralson County will beat the Yellow Jackets. Matt, what do you think?
Well, the thing that really gets my attention the most, I think, about this matchup is Haralson County let Coosa hang 17 points on them. Well, Coosa's been shut out a couple of times this year, and as we mentioned to you earlier, they have had a very hard time scoring against everybody else but Haralson County more or less this year. So that really kind of gets my attention. Rockmart, on the other hand, they have athletes on this team. Yeah. They're kind of hit or miss. I picked against them last week, and it kind of burned me in the newspaper. And so, with that said, I'm going to go with Rockmart just because I think they're going to be a little bit more athletic than you're going to see from Haralson County, and they're going to be able to score some points, whether it's on special teams or whatever the case may be. I think there's going to be some situations that presents themselves to this team, and they're going to take advantage of it and might even get lucky a couple times in the game. But with that said, probably since I picked them, they'll probably lose. But I'm going to go with Rockmart because I think they'll be a little bit better than Haralson County.
Well, the big thing I think about this first coming in is this was one of the games at the beginning of the season I felt like Rockmart should win. Rockmart, again, they are a total riddle. Too many mistakes, too many turnovers. They have athletes, but as the fans in Polk County say, I think there's a little bit of they're a little worried about this group. If Rockmart's going to make the playoffs, and yes, they have a legitimate playoff chance, you got to win against Haralson County. Even though it's on the road, doesn't matter. If Rockmart loses this game, they're not. It's not definitely a done deal. They're not going to the playoffs. That's what my prediction is if they lose this game. So my feeling is Rockmart's going to stick around for a couple more weeks with those playoff chances. They beat Haralson County. They're not going to win the region title, but put a couple more region wins together, and they could be seeing playoffs here coming soon. Rome, the Wolves, only one loss on the season, traveling to play North Paulding. 89% of our UPick'em users believe that Rome will win this game. North Paulding, last week had to go overtime to beat South Paulding, a team that Rome handled earlier in the season. Matt, could North Paulding pull the upset against the Wolves?
Absolutely, I think. And the reason I'm going to say that is North Paulding has lost one game, and the game that they lost was against East Paulding. Yeah. Well, East Paulding's been whooping everybody's tail. They've had several, they've had 4 decisive shutouts this season. And, North Paulding was able to hang with them at the very least. So I think North Paulding is a better team than people are giving them credit for, to be honest with you. And Rome, they come into the game 4-1 as well. And really the biggest team they played against is Alatoona, and, they did okay in that game. But I'm not totally sold on Rome yet. They've scored a lot of points against a lot lesser teams.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a much bigger competition for them than anybody else has besides Alatoona. So I think Rome is actually going to fall on the road this week. It's going to be a long ride back to Floyd County.
You know what? This I may have to join you. Let me see if I can talk myself out of it here. Okay, you talk about Alatoona and Rome doing well in that game. I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think Rome played well at all in that game. 14 of those points were from special teams. They only scored 3 points offensively in that game. So that, coupled with the fact that this defense on this Rome team is not as good as the defense last year, allowing so many points to Alatoona. This time last year, Rome's defense had gelled, and they started keeping teams under 22 points, right around that margin. This year, New Manchester put up a whole bunch of them on them 2 weeks ago. Last week, I covered them in that game, and I think it was against Paulding County. And for the first quarter, Paulding moved the ball very effectively against Rome. And yeah, granted, Rome made some changes and shut them down, but I don't know. This is an awfully tough game. Talking to Franco Perkins after the game last week, he said this is really important. And he's, while they don't like to talk about playoffs early, everybody in the region, everybody in town knows this week at North Paulding, next week at East Paulding. If Rome loses to North Paulding, I'm going to say they're losing next week to East Paulding, hands down. Sorry, Rome fans, you're not good enough to beat that team. If Rome drops to North Paulding, all of a sudden Rome's not fighting for the number 3 or the number 2 spot in the playoffs. They're just fighting for playoffs all the way around. So Rome has to win this game, without a doubt, if they want playoffs and they want that number 3 seed in the playoffs. Rome's offense has got to score points. The defense has to come back and, not pitch a shutout, but keep North Paulding shy of that magical 21 number. I believe Rome's going to win the game. I think it's going to be close, but I think Rome's special teams play, which, I talked about a minute ago against Alatoona, is probably going to end up being the difference. Now, if Rome turns the ball over a lot and has a bunch of mistakes, all bets are off. I'm betting on Rome in this game, agreeing with the 89% of you pick'em users, but I believe this is going to be a very tight contest all night long. Moving down to single A, Tryon. 97% of our UPick'em users believe the Bulldogs will win when they travel to Mount Zion. Matt, do you think there's any chance for a Mount Zion upset?
I don't know. Tryon, they have already won twice as many games as they did last year. They've had some success along the way. The team that got them recently was the Darlington Tigers. That was their only loss of the year, and it was very decisive. I don't know exactly what happened in that game, but Darlington really ran away with it. In this matchup, Mount Zion, they've struggled most games except for against North Cobb Christian and Southwest Atlanta Christian. Well, 2 teams that are having terrible seasons. So I don't think that they've proven very much this year. I just don't think they're going to be as good a football team as Tryon. Tryon's big, they're well conditioned, they're much improved over last year, and they appear to be very motivated. And I tell you what, after getting beat like they did to Darlington, they really feel like they've got something to prove, and they're going to put it out on the field every game the rest of the way. So in a way, I think them getting beat by Darlington, if you can find a silver lining, I think there's some motivational factors that come into play from that loss. So these facts do not bode well for the team they're going up against this weekend, Mount Zion. So I think Tryon will win this one hands down.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And in my 15 to 16 years of covering high school football, I've seen this happen a lot of times where a pretty good team gets handily beaten, and the opponent the next week, oh, buddy, it does not turn out well for that next opponent. I think this is exactly what you're going to see here. I think Tryon has a lot of pent-up aggression after last week's beatdown, and unfortunately, I think Mount Zion, they're going to get handed a beatdown this week. Tryon wins this one, probably wins this one running away. One last game to talk about, the UPick'em tiebreak game this week. Pepperell at Calhoun. Not surprisingly, 94% of our UPick'em users believe the Yellow Jackets will handle the Dragons. The predicted score on this one, Calhoun 43, Pepperell 16. Matt, it's at Calhoun, a tough place to play. Is there any chance the Dragons can pull an upset?
Well, I'll start by saying this is the most interesting matchup you will see in Region 7AA involving the Yellow Jackets this year. I think Pepperell, of any team out there in 7AA, has the best opportunity to win this game. However, with that said, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that I think this is going to be a close game, because quite frankly, I don't think it's going to be. I think that Calhoun has just got too much on offense. They're explosive. They can do things that most high school football teams can only dream that they would be able to do with the amount of talent they have offensively. Yes, in the first few games of the season, they gave up a ton of points, which surprised me. I think surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
But as you've seen them move into region play, that's kind of subsided a little bit. And I think you're going to continue to see that trend. I think that Pepperell may be competitive with them parts of the game, but overall I just think Calhoun's going to be too much, and quite honestly I think you'd even have a hard time finding somebody in Lindale right now that would think this is going to be a close game, and if they're thinking about this realistically. So anything can happen any given Friday night, we all know that, but I think that Calhoun's region streak is safe at least through the rest of the season.
Yeah, Calhoun just keeps on rolling. I believe the last 4 times these two teams have met, I think it might have gone running clock all 4 times. Maybe not on one of the occasions, but there is a huge divide between Calhoun and the rest of Region 7 AA, and the rest of Region 7 AA, the best of those teams is Pepperell, and that divide, crazy enough, seems to be growing almost year by year. When you look at those state rankings right now in Class AA, the composite rankings of the 4 or 5 services that actually do rankings have 16 teams ranked. Calhoun is number 1 in AA. No other team from Region 7 AA is even mentioned. They're not even others receiving votes. That's how big the gap is right now. And to say that nobody in 7 AA even is thought of to be one of the top 16 teams in the state is saying something. I think Pepperell might be halfway decent there. I just don't think they can beat Calhoun. Pepperell's offense is not enough. Even if Pepperell can score a couple of touchdowns, they can't get in a track meet against Calhoun. I don't think Pepperell's defense is going to be able to slow them down enough to get the win. That being said, Pepperell is my choice to grab the number 2 seed out of Region 7 AA. It's still going to be a tough first-round playoff game for them, but there's a lot to play for the rest of the season for the Dragons. Unfortunately, Friday night, it could get ugly again. It would not surprise me if it's running clock in the second half. And of course, speaking of Friday night, we're going to have live scoring updates from all of our local games. Coverage from several of the games, including articles, videos, and slideshows. Where the radio state game is going to be this week?
We're going to be out at Almerchi for the Almerchi-Chattooga game. And then, of course, as every weekend that the Darlington Tigers are playing, WLAQ will be with Darlington. And so we'll have some Darlington football coming up for you this weekend, which should be pretty exciting, I would think.
Definitely so, definitely so. On the radio, online, we have everything covered. Be sure to be back here Saturday evening as I'll wrap everything up with who won, who lost, talk a little football, show you some highlights, and get us ready as we are heading into the latter half of the season. The Region 7 AA picture, the other region pictures will start to become a little bit clearer Friday night at midnight. Join us here on the Gridiron Central scoreboard. For Matt Davis, Kevin Myrick, and Austin Wiggins, I'm Jim Allred saying we'll see you on the sidelines on Friday.
Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future.